Hey, William.
Hi,
Hey, good to see you, man.
good to see you. Thank you for the
Yeah,
question.
thanks for taking the question. It's a bit of a fascination and preoccupation for me lately. So,
Yeah.
um, wow, that was just so much great information because I usually come at it from the ET hybridization program.
Uh,
So, that's just really fun.
yeah.
So, let's see. One of the questions that I had, okay, so like changing the transcript sequence and how do you spell the ALU? How is that?
It's ALU.
Okay, because I knew that ALOO wasn't right. um,
Uh,
okay. Okay, so horizontal gene transfer. So we're talking about intelligences, advanced intelligences that know how to do this, right?
yeah.
And
Mhm,
that's the fun part. And
mhm.
so that's a whole conversation that I don't know is quite for this platform, but uh, I'm so curious about that piece, and it's fun to hear that that was the original piece that brought you on with Nassim's work. Um, yeah, that's really fun.
Mhm.
So, okay, here's my question. So I've been working with a lot of people lately about the hybridization program, and you're in Mary Rodwell's presentation about having talked about you know sort of the intrinsic understanding of DNA and all of that you've been talking about. And thank you so much. This was so awesome. Uh, Part of the conversation is the advanced interpretation of DNA that includes like the holographic aspects of the dark, the junk, or the non-coding DNA, right? So holographic nature and interdimensional nature of DNA. Can you've got the scientific here. Can you talk a little bit about, like, is there the science that indicates that?
Yeah, yeah. It's really unfortunate because we don't have a good name for this DNA.
Right,
That is, 98 to 99% of our genome because, it got the historical moniker junk DNA. But if you look at the source of that, it comes from um, early calculations on uh, the number of genes. It was actually a Japanese researcher. He was able to calculate mathematically the number of genes that should be present to make the human. And he compared that to the amount of DNA that was known. And this was in the 70s, so this is before there was really molecular biology, molecular genetics. So DNA was still kind of a black box. But he was able to actually show remarkably close the number of genes and compared it to the actual known amount of DNA. I think then it was something like it might have actually been like he calculated around 20% of the genome is gene coding sequences proper. That is coding for proteins that do work and build structural components of the cell. But even that at that point was like unbelievable because it's like, well, so there's 80% of our genome that what it isn't doing anything. Is it
right,
just junk? That, and
right.
that's actually kind of how he posed the question. And then it just kind of stuck that, oh, it's junk DNA. But of course, from the 70s, we kind of developed, and the scientists developed molecular genetics techniques and was able to show the functionality of this DNA. And, now it's obviously, not junk because, it contains, yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah,
Oh God.
yeah, because it contains hundreds of thousands of regulatory gene elements,
Right.
and so over the course of human um, evolution, humans becoming the modern version of our species, uh, there have been hundreds of thousands of insertions of DNA into our genome. Uh, I'm sorry. I need to reword that a little bit. There have been a lot of insertions of foreign DNA into our genome that have introduced hundreds of thousands of gene regulatory elements.
Okay.
Yeah, but so, what do we call it? And it's kind of, I think the reason that we don't have a good name for it is because we still don't fully understand it. So we don't really have the technical terminology to describe exactly what it is.
Right.
Even non-coding DNA isn't a good name for it. It's one that
Right.
I kind of fall back on because it codes, it produces reverse transcriptase proteins. Proteins that will take RNA, turn it into DNA, and insert it into the genome. So I mean, it codes for. It also makes proteins. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's non-coding.
Right. Why don't we call it advanced DNA? We have advanced DNA parts
Yeah,
of us, right?
yeah, and actually, a name that I kind of experimented with a little bit was altruistic DNA.
Oh.
Because
Oh.
this is DNA. I like advanced DNA also, but this is DNA that has been shared. It's DNA that's shared.
Yeah. That's part
Um,
of the problem, right? We can't go past that barrier of like who's sharing it. So, to talk about the advanced capacities, yeah, we're opening up serious cans of worms. But I
uh-huh,
really like altruistic DNA, and
uh-huh.
and it really like, yeah, I wish we could get past that idea that there are other advanced influences, and I wish we could see ourselves. I feel like we're a little bit primitive,
uh-huh.
but we can't really do all that. So
For myself, I'm kind of getting a little bit past the point of tiptoeing around
oh, good.
describing it. I mean, just because there's been official documentation and releases from U.S. government sources of these advanced craft, and the officials that are releasing video, images, and documentation of these advanced craft are pretty adamant that it's not us.
Yeah.
It's not our adversaries or other countries. So it's pretty obvious that these are craft from off world.
Right. But
Um,
that's a great leap, because people get really preoccupied with the craft. So like to go from, oh yes, that it's really happening to gene insertion is like, it's a stretch for most people
yeah,
to think about larger influences.
yeah,
And I mean, even though it's a millennia of, this reality, but
yeah,
I-
yeah. But it's like, okay, so if we do get to the point where we accept that there are other advanced intelligent civilizations um, in our neighborhood, in our galactic neighborhood, um, if you look at the technological implications of that, it means that they are capable of interstellar travel. One of the things about the physics of the relativity of interstellar travel is that it's more appropriately called time travel.
Mm,
When you're traveling interstellar distances, you are in effect traveling through time. This is exemplified in Einstein's twins paradox, where you have one twin that stays on Earth and another twin that goes visits Alpha Centauri at some proportion of the speed of light and comes back, and one of the twins has aged 4 years and the other hasn't, is aged a couple days, because one of them was time traveling.
right.
You, but so it's just what that means is that you're talking now about deep time. So any advanced intelligent civilizations that are present, this isn't something that's just been occurring in the last 50 years or 70
Right.
years. You're talking about deep time. So I mean, in terms of Earth's terrestrial history, um, easily going back hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years.
Right.
Um, and the way that other advanced intelligent civilizations arise throughout the galaxy, it's not all at once. So, I mean, there are advanced intelligent civilizations that could have arisen hundreds of millions of years ago relative to Earth's timeline,
Right.
and even billions of years ago. And so, actually, if you look at the work of the father of molecular genetics, this is Dr. Crick. He published a paper with the organic chemist Dr. Orgel, and the title of their paper was Directed Panspermia. And
Right.
and
Yeah, I've used this in my talks about genetic modification, because he actually just admits that it had to be something else, right? Sorry to jump in. It's just so exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this Dr. Crick is oftentimes credited as identifying DNA. It's really more that he proved, along with Watson, that DNA is the hereditary molecule of the biological system. But then he went on to decode the DNA to show how it actually codes information. He delineated the transcriptional mechanism of DNA, so DNA being transcribed into RNA. He delineated the translational mechanism, that is how the codon code of DNA is translated into proteins. So essentially the father of molecular biology here. And one of his most exciting papers was on his conjecture that life originated on Earth via essentially implantation, being seeded by a advanced extraterrestrial civilization, an advanced civilization from another solar system.
Yeah, that was slightly progressive back in that day, right?
Well, no, because actually, if you go back, like in the 19th century, it was actually kind of a predominant theory that life arrived on Earth via panspermia.
Okay.
It was actually very popular. And actually, I think even within the 19th century, there was discussion of, intelligent civilizations bringing life to the early Earth.
Oh, what happened? Where'd we go wrong?
Well,
so close.
Part of it fell into disfavor with the kind of concerted discrediting campaign that occurred in the 50s on the idea of extraterrestrial species. Because, before then, it wasn't like the domain of crazy people. I mean, actually, most scientists thought that the planets around us probably had life and things like intelligent beings like humans. I mean, most astronomers thought that Mars was probably inhabited with life and beings like intelligent species. And there was just really an inflection point around the 1950s where there was a concerted effort to reframe the question of life outside of Earth as a preoccupation of the mentally unstable.
Yes. I'm proud, man.
So I mean, it's if you look at that, I mean, it's really kind of coming from more political and national security type issues, because it's like around that time there became increasing numbers of credible reports of advanced craft, and the consensus was we need to debunk and discredit these reports and these sightings because it could lead to like a national panic, and also
the liberation of the human species. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So But basically, essentially science suffered as a result of it, because
Yeah.
what is a totally logical and completely legitimate question of other intelligent beings like ourselves in the universe became somehow stigmatized and something that you just didn't want to discuss if you wanted to maintain credibility. But I think though we kind of got past that, and actually we're at another inflection point where it's like it's becoming, I think, more. It's coming back into the scientific discourse as a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so cool because it really partners with Mary's work and all of the folks that are talking about the new humans and the star kids and how we haven't understood their multidimensional nature. And so I really love how the science is, that was part of why I wanted to ask, the science is here to support that evolutionary track, evolutionary process. It is an exciting time. Did you say inflection? No.
Yeah, kind of like an inflection point.
Inflection. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard that DNA is the currency of the universe, right? Like we're just starting to learn the language. I mean, I don't mean to lump us all together. I know there's some advanced folks that have been moving in that way, but I know we're probably out of time. It's 2:00, but thank you so much. I'm going to go back and, really watch this to get all of the awesome details that you've given about the molecular biology of our DNA. But it's the holographic, like interdimensional part that I was really, I'm really jazzed about. So thank you.
Yeah. So I'm working on developing content for all of this that will be available on the Resonance Academy.
All right.
So it's it's a lot of information, so it's going to take some time to get it all collated and discussed in a way that is accessible. But yeah, definitely I hope to have all this information accessible so that you can really dive into all the details and have it accessible. Yeah.
Cool. That's where we're going, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. There's just a lot we can get into on that. Maybe a little bit unfortunate that we're coming to the end of the session.
Yeah, well, we'll do it next time. We'll do something else at some point. Yeah, awesome. Call me.
Awesome.
Thanks, William. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for joining. And I hope that you have a safe and fun weekend. And I'll look forward to our next Resonance Academy meeting where we can get into some more interesting science topics, unified physics, and maybe some genetic engineering, human hybridization questions. So thank you all, and take care until the next time. Bye.